Way of thinking about this is when you finish the shot, try to create a box. Just created a square with my upper arm, lower arm, racket, and my chest. Created a box here. Now, if you can finish with this box, and it's kind of facing the camera, it's not fully down court, even though I could try to get it there. Usually the body's gonna rotate a little bit more around so that that box ends up pointing at a 45-degree angle this way. Now, the beauty of this is not only do you get the back of the racket next to the arm, which rotates the arm pretty efficiently, it gets you to bend the elbow at the right time. So by creating that box, we get to bend that elbow, which allows you to bring that racket head through a little bit quicker. It's gonna look exactly like a box, but if you watch me hitting this shot right here, you can see I'm pretty much finishing in that box position. Put the racket facing your opponent. Now, what's great about this is it can start to give you a little bit more racket speed, because what I'll generally tell people is see how quickly you can get the butt cap facing your opponent. Now, I don't mean really fast as in you're trying to swing it fast, but how early in the swing can you do it? Because the quicker you can get it there, the more you'll be rotating the arm through the shot. Because what a lot of people do is this, right? And the butt cap's facing the wrong direction, and then they'll rotate it here. So if you try to rotate it a little bit earlier, get the butt cap out, that will give you that pronation you're looking for, but also that racket speed to whip the racket head through a little bit quicker.
And make the stroke. And as you get a release from the stress and tension of pushing against the fence, then you get tremendous racket speed at exactly the right time, and pronation occurs totally naturally. Let me show you what I mean. I put the racket into the portrait position. I have the stress and tension. I now rotate around and swing. Again, holding the racket and pushing with stress and tension into the fence, around and swing. Find that the acceleration is so early in the stroke, it's going to occur exactly when you hit the ball. And the pronation finish is totally natural. Then obviously we move away from the fence and we try and make the same movement without the aid of the pressure. Stress and tension, release and swing. Immediately after the tension to the side, then you'll get the fast, aggressive racket speed at exactly the right moment in your stroke. It really makes a huge difference, and you'll see that the power and spin and therefore control all become easier and better.
So from the swing of the racket to the contact with the ball. So the process of watching the ball should be to watch the opponent, to then watch the incoming ball, to then see contact, and then leave the head down. Whether it's down looking at the ball or slightly ahead, it doesn't matter. The head stays stationary. So effectively, I'm looking at nothing. So it's opponent, ball, contact, and nothing. Ball, contact. Opponent, ball, and contact. With this process, you will find that the ball appears to slow down. In reality, it's the mind speeding up as it's got more information and can process it more efficiently. If you put these two processes together, thinking of it as opponent and ball, and then racket and ball, then you'll have the best of both worlds. The opponent will give you information on where the ball is going to go, how fast it is, what spin it's got, and then we need to focus on the ball, and then we need to focus on contact and leave the head down. This is totally different to watching the ball in and out. See how I'm watching my ball this way, I'm watching the ball in and out of contact. It has to be the opponent, the ball, the contact, and then nothing. The reason this is so important is that when you move your head independently of your body, then you can't focus on anything. If you try this now, when you move your head like this, then everything becomes a blur. So if you just watch the ball, then you can't see it. You're looking at it, but you can't see it. If the head moves with the body in this fashion, now I'm moving the head the same way, try it, you'll see, and everything stays in focus. Separate entity. So first let's look at the stroke without pronation. And I make the stroke and I have this classic finish here. And my hand has not turned inwards. My hand has stayed neutral. Now I'm going to change this and I'm going to make pronation. And now my hand has turned distinctly inwards, without the turn and with the turn. Now this is not a movement from the wrist or the elbow. The movement actually begins from my shoulder as I rotate the whole arm inward. If I do it with my wrist, then I'll create spin from very little speed. But when I do it with the whole arm, I create this wonderful blend of power and spin, the relationship between the fingers and the thumbs. So I'm now going to reproduce the movement of the classic forehand without pronation, without my racket. And I take the racket back and I bring the hands together and the fingers come to the fingers and the thumb comes to the thumb. But now I'm going to reproduce the stroke with an imaginary racket again, without the racket, and I'm going to add pronation. And this time what happens at the end is that the thumb goes to the finger and the finger goes to the thumb. If we have a look at that closely, without pronation, finger to finger, thumb to thumb. With pronation, thumb to finger and finger to thumb with pronation. And although you don't need to swing any faster, you'll immediately hear the difference in the racket speed as it's dramatically increased when we add pronation. As you add pronation, then you get this tremendous increase in racket speed, but the whole swing path has changed and you're now making a stroke that is very likely to create heavy topspin as well as racket speed and power on the ball.
The next part of the kinetic chain to happen, which would be the rotation of the forearm and the wrist. So in order to get the racket speed and the ability to pronate and move the racket quickly, you actually have to stop the shoulder for a period of time. Now you might find that with the pros, they look like they're doing this, you know, turning the shoulders from this angle to this angle. But actually what you'll see is at the point of contact, there's a little freeze of the shoulder that allows this racket to come, and then there's a continuation of the energy and the shoulder just continues after that. But
the body is feeling, the language of the mind is words. So to change your stroke, we want the feeling of it. And to achieve this feeling of a perfect unit turn and a perfect follow through, see what happens when you make your forehand with two hands. I'm not suggesting that you play a two-handed forehand. And I want to show you how to get the weight from the back foot to the front foot and into the serve with a great drill. Now, many players, if I was hitting in this direction here, many players have their weight too long in the back foot. So they hit, but it never transfers to the front foot. Or they have all the weight in the front foot and the back foot is just drifting through the stroke. But to get the right weight transfer, serve to begin just off the right foot. So serve and then jump forwards. See, from this direction here, go into the stroke, serve, and then jump forwards. And then reproduce that same feeling of serving and jumping forwards, but let the left foot receive the weight instead of receiving the jump. Will be racket, arm, body, and that's it. Whereas we're looking for body, arm, racket, racket, arm, body, back. Then it's very easy for the momentum of your swing to actually overtake everything. And so a great way of actually achieving the kinetic chain is to drastically reduce the size of the take back on the forehand, feel the movement of the body because now the momentum will not overtake the kinetic chain, and then go back to a larger take back, can feel tremendous momentum in the racket. Then what I'm going to do is just swing from here. And if I swing from here, then I have almost no momentum in the stroke. I'll do it from this side, it'll be easier to see. So normally back here, around and through, but here I'm just going to make the smallest of takebacks. And there feels like no energy in the stroke because I'm not doing anything with my body and I don't have the momentum in the racket. So now I'm going to add the body. So I'm just going to bend a little bit, turn a little bit, and turn the body first. Now I turn the body first. And again, turn the body first. And because I have no momentum in the racket, I can really start to feel the sequence of the body pulling the arm and the racket through. And now I'm just going to position, pushing away from the direction that they want to go. They're not pushing that way, they're pushing that way to go that way. Tennis is exactly the same. What we need to do is to push from the ground, get low, and then push away from the direction that we want to go. This will make for an explosive and powerful and quick movement. Now we'll look at something like the pro players, and what we'll have is the back foot will receive the weight and the heel will be off the ground. Those are the two principles. I'll just show you in this direction. So look, the back foot has received the weight and the heel is off the ground. And the heel wants to be off the ground as low as possible, not as high as possible. It's not a fashion show. What we want to do is have it as low as possible, but off the ground, and then push. And that will give you a drive in the opposite direction. It'll create tremendous energy. So once again, typical recreation position, the foot's flat to the ground, the base is narrow, and they swing from the arm. This could be you. Or we have a wider base, the weight loads into the back foot, the heel is very close to the ground, but it's off the ground, and then swing. This will create a natural leg drive, and the leg drive should happen right in the heart of the stroke, right in the out of control part of the stroke. Remember, when you're thinking about tennis strokes, they are in control to out of control to in control movements. To out of control to in control movements. What does that mean? At the beginning of the stroke here, if you said to me, point the foot there or there or there, I can do anything I want because I'm in control. At the end of the stroke, if you said finish with the racket over the shoulder or finish with the racket down by the side, it's no problem because I'm in control. But in the middle part of the stroke here, the heart of the stroke, if you ask me to stop, I can't. If you ask me to change anything, I can't. And if I move in such a way that I can change it, then it's going to be useless.
Everyone watch. Sit in a chair. The swing goes from inside to outside. If you don't swing away from your body, you're gonna get jammed, okay? Now
And that has to do with the toss. We talked about the trajectory, right? We're serving from the left to the right, and naturally the ball is gonna have a rightward trajectory. And the more away from the middle I stand, the more trajectory I will get. Also, the closer to the middle I stand, the less trajectory I'm gonna get. So if you are attempting to hit a slice serve as a right-handed player to the ad side, going down the tee, you wanna stand as close to the middle hash mark as possible. But not only that, if you look at that Opelka serve that I'm referring to, he threw the ball at 230, threw it way over there. And what happens then is that you lose the rightward trajectory because you're making contact on this side of the court.
And if you're not fit enough to do that, get fitter.
The reason they want the ball to drop is because as the ball is falling, you can get your racket underneath. It keeps the racket and the ball in line, which creates a longer, more consistent hit zone. This then enables you to whip, rip, brush, roll, whatever topspin sensation you're choosing to use, back up past the ball, and it is that moment of the racket and the ball meeting for longer in a very, very steep trajectory that creates as much spin as possible.